Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. In this episode, we'll finally start laying down our highway that'll stretch pretty much across the whole map, and we'll see how many cities we can end up connecting with this, as we did use these large roads to connect a bunch of other cities before, so we'll see how many of those networks we can really put together with a larger, more robust highway network. So right now, if we come to our destinations layer here, we can pretty much see where all the private transportation is traveling, where everyone is going by road, and really we have two systems. We have these 5 cities over here that are all connected, and then we pretty much have the rest of the map over here that is all connected. And the first thing I want to do is connect these two systems. And I think the best way to go about that is by cutting through this area here. And I think we can get a really cool highway that sort of follows along the mountainside here. So pretty much it'll be a highway that stretches from Montgomery down, probably through this valley, around the mountain, and then ends somewhere over near Downey. Now, I know that'd be a lot quicker to just come this way, and maybe we could have it be a loop around the mountain, and then we could have sort of a few arms that come out to these farther out cities, such as Albuquerque, Modesto, and Sacramento, and then maybe even all the way up to Birmingham. Or another way we could do this is have that route that we talked about before, from Montgomery to Downey, have another highway from Birmingham that sort of follows the land on this side over until Sacramento or Stockton, and then we can have sort of connecting highways that cut across, or maybe bridge over this and come over here somewhere. Not too sure yet. I think we'll pretty much just have to first build the initial highway from Montgomery to Downey, and then see what other connections can be made from there. So of course, let's get started over here by Montgomery, as I think that'll probably be the easiest area to start with. So if we just pull back, I think we want the highway to come up here and follow in this valley. So we'll probably want the entrance of the highway to be somewhere over here, or probably somewhere that gives this train a little bit of space, since we don't want a road crossing. And if we do that, I suppose it is sunk in a little bit, so we could do a bridge just sort of right over it. So actually a bridge coming across here might not be that bad. So let's first, taking a look here, that seems to be very steep. So maybe we flatten this out and smooth out this hill just a little bit. And then we'll lay down sort of the beginnings of the highway, and then once we sort of have where its trajectory is, we can figure out probably somewhere in here where the start and end of that highway will be. So as we said before, we're going to come in with the smooth brush, and we'll smooth all this out. I think it'd probably actually just be better to raise it up first and then smooth it out. So something like this, the slope looks a little bit better. So the next thing we're going to want to do is pretty much just delete this existing road through here. It doesn't really connect to anything, as it starts and ends pretty much right next to this road. So I think really we could just delete this entire road and we'll be just fine. Alright, so now we have this road deleted. Let's come in, and we have this parallel highway guide that we've downloaded from the Steam Workshop, and this will just help us create much more parallel roads which include highways. So we can select the number of lanes, choose how wide they are. We'll probably go with tight or normal for most of this. I think we might go with tight, since we'll be pretty close to the edge of the mountain here. So then what we want to do pretty much is place these every so often, and this will sort of give us a guide for height and length between each segment. We don't want to make them too far apart because then we might run into issues with the roads not being parallel, but we'll start with those 3 and then we'll come in, grab our highway. I believe we selected 2-lane for this, which I suppose will be good. I think we'll be fine with just 2-lane highways for now. And we'll drag them 1 in each direction. And you can see for the most part, they're pretty parallel to each other. So as long as we don't give them too much space between each segment, we should get some pretty decent and parallel highways. Alright, so now we have this highway coming across these railroad tracks with this nice concrete bridge. Gets a little tight under there, but that's okay. And then ends right here before we reach sort of our main intersection into the city of Montgomery. Now, we want to figure out how we're going to have this intersection really, as this is a pretty heavily used road since it's the only road into Montgomery. So we want to figure out a way that we can have an intersection here that's not going to hinder the traffic more than it already is with this single intersection already. Alright, so after a lot of thinking and playing around, I think really the simplest solution is probably what's best for over here. I don't anticipate too much traffic starting, at least over here, so maybe just having intersections like this will do just fine. And maybe we could even just upgrade this so it's a little bit more structured as the cars come through here. So we can do something like that. That way there's sort of a turn lane on and off of the highway. And really I think that's how we're going to leave this side. We did rebuild this road a little farther down to space out these intersections. So we'll see how that does. We actually need to come through here and smooth this out real quick. Just fix it up so that it looks decent. So that works. And I think we're good to, once we clean up this landscape here, just get this highway flowing across the edge of this mountain. Alright, so this landscape's pretty much good enough for now. We'll come back through, and if we think it needs a little bit more detail, we can come back through and do that. But now, really all that this is grabbing our parallel highway guides and just placing them through wherever we want them, wherever we think sort of a significant point that we want the road to be, or where we want it to be pointing towards. We'll just come through and click. So maybe it'll come through like this, and then somewhere over here we'll start to turn, and then right before this we'll have one here, and then one there. So then we can come back to our highways and pretty much just drag these along, connect all these up, and that's the process that we'll be doing. We'll come through, periodically check that the highways are connecting how we want them to, that the terrain's working how we want them to, and that's pretty much the process for this. So really what we're going to do, I think the plan is to follow this ridge here on this mountain all the way across, just keep flowing. Maybe right here is a good chance to have sort of an intersection that'll come off and head down towards Jackson and Scottsdale, or maybe out towards Albuquerque and Winston-Salem. Not too sure if or what we would do with that at the moment, but then we'd follow this ridge all the way over until I think somewhere down here we'll land, and we can connect up to our highway between Downey and Mesa. And so then this will sort of act as the end of the highway on this end. Alright, so here we are sort of a little past the halfway mark of this highway. So here's where we're at now. We just got to this little valley that falls out of the mountain here, and We did put some bridges. I think it looks quite nice. You can sort of see out into the distance a little bit, sort of see what's out there. Follows along here. We have a little tunnel here, which we might redo. This doesn't look too great, so we might redo this to where we don't have a tunnel, or maybe the tunnels aren't so close to each other. And that just keeps going, flowing along through here, through the valley, and then back through. One thing to note, we did upgrade these to 3-lane highways, just so we have the higher top speed here. This has a top speed of 62 miles an hour, whereas the medium highway has a top speed of 50. So I think for this one we want to prioritize our top speed, and in order to do that, unfortunately that just means we have to add an extra lane. So then pretty much we'll just continue going, and then we'll probably come back once we're ready to start winding our way down towards where our intersection is going to be near Downey. And now we have the highway pretty much to where we're going to start working our way down this hill and into this lower area. We can see it looks like we've slowly started to come down at this point, but we pretty much just followed the edge of the mountain. We ended up with a little bridge here. We had to cut into it a little bit right here. I wanted to make sure that we didn't really destroy the natural landscape as much as possible. So that's why there's some of these awkward turns and angles everywhere, because I really want to keep the way that this landscape looks. I didn't want to just carve a valley straight through here or a bunch of bridges and tunnels. So I think this will be a really cool highway once it's finished, and we can sort of see the car's point of view from up here. You can see, well, maybe not from here, but you'll be able to see the cities of Jackson and Scottsdale as you come around this way, off in the distance, and just a good view from overall on this highway. Now I do want to come back to this section here, and as I mentioned before, I think we're going to avoid using a tunnel here, just so it looks a little cleaner. So maybe we could do this if we just do something like this, and then we'll come back and smooth it out a bit. So we'll bring this down so we don't completely destroy the landscape. We'll flatten this off and smooth it out. We'll have to smooth out that little bit that we messed up, but then here we'll smooth this back. That doesn't look too terrible. I think we'll just bring this all the way down and try to still get a little bit of that grass coming across here. This might take a little bit to get working. Alright, so I think this is about as good as we're going to get. It still looks pretty good, and hopefully should still be just as functional. So now let's figure out what we're going to do with this highway. And we'll want to continue using our parallel roads. I think we're gonna have to delete some of these roads as we make our way down. So I think we'll have our first one here. And at this point, we're pretty much just going to be switching back and forth, trying to figure out what will and won't work. Because that's a really steep decline there. It's going to be quite tricky getting into down in that area, so maybe we'll actually pull this back a tiny bit and start descending earlier. So now we're colliding with this road. We'll come back and fix that later. But this slope is a little bit better now. I think we will keep this as a tunnel. We'll see what it looks like when it's finished. And then we'll have a little bridge there. We'll do the same going the opposite direction. Although this is where we get the issues with our parallel roads. It does not like to do tunnels next to each other, so I think we are going to have to delete this and force it to be just land. So we'll do that. And we can drag this up and change the bridge to our usual concrete bridge. Now that doesn't look like an awful incline now. It's still pretty steep, but much more doable than the other way that we were trying to do it. And now let's just see if we just grab this, if it's even possible to get down here. So it is. It would be a very interesting structure doing it like that. Maybe we just have to sort of wind our way down. I think we'll have to take it sort of very carefully, one step at a time. We lose a little bit of the travel efficiency since it's not so much a straight line, but I think it would probably be worth it to lose some of our height that way. So pretty much what we'll do is we'll switch it back around like this, and then probably somewhere around here we'll have that. And let's just see how it reacts to doing that. So we can pretty much see already it really doesn't want to try to do that. So maybe we just have to break it down into a few more steps. Alright, so this is the solution we came up with to get us down into this area. It gets us pretty close, so I'm pretty happy with it. I think we might be able to pull this back just a bit more to give us some space to pretty much curve down and into here. But now, really our next tricky thing is to figure out how we're going to end this over here. Now we could do something very similar and really just have them form intersections, which might not be too bad, as I don't really think there's a better way, at least with how the roads work in this game. There's not really an easy way to make a highway intersection with pretty much a connected road, whereas the highway is like two separate roads. There's not really a good way to connect the two of them. So I think we'll just leave the end as we did before over in Montgomery. So we'll bring this till somewhere about there, where then we can connect these highways. Although it doesn't seem to want to connect like that, so we'll have to put sort of a middle section in here. We'll probably want to raise that up to about there. Bring this around. And that's not really a bad slope, so we can keep that. Bring up the other way. Connect in this way. And then just so we can get rid of that weird little flat bump in the middle of it, we will delete where we started and pretty much one segment in each direction. And that should give us a pretty smooth road in the end. As we come around, take a look here. So yeah, I think that works out. And then once we're here, we can downgrade to these 2-lane roads, have an intersection come off there, and then have another one come off this way and intersect with this highway. So I think that's pretty much how that highway is going to work. Let's come through and clean up this area. So we'll grab our smooth tool. We'll smooth out this hill that comes up. So that looks pretty natural. Coming over here to the corner of this, we'll have to smooth it out. We might even just come through with our flatten tool and just bring it out so that when we smooth it, we get a little bit of a bump and a little bit of space between the edge of the highway and where it really starts to drop off. Now we can pretty much just follow up to where this bridge is. We'll smooth out these areas we'll probably want to flatten this out so we don't get the jagged edge right next to the highway. So then we can do something like that. That's not too terrible. And then up here is going to be the tricky part to fix. So we can smooth out both sides of this. That looks pretty natural. And then we'll want to get this road back in here, I think. I think that'll just help add a nice touch to this area. And I think it connected all the way back down to here. So we'll come back through. And we'll keep it a dirt road, since really it's not being used by anything. But figuring out how we're going to get up there is going to be the tricky part. So I think this works out pretty well for getting up to where this industry is. We just now have to clean this out pretty much the same way we did this edge. I think keeping that all as grass works and makes sense. So then we'll just have to flatten out sort of a edge here along the whole portion of this, and then smooth it out and see what we're left with. So I don't think this actually looks too bad. I kind of like how it looks. We can leave it there, and then starting up here, it looks like we can get this connected, but I maybe want to give it a little bit more space between the road and the highway. So that works out just fine, like so. And then here, I'm hoping we can get this road to come down and go under our highway bridge. So we'll probably have to loop it around a little bit more. I think right here we can get it going under. So that's nice. And then pretty much we'll have that fill in with dirt, and then drag this road around so it connects there. And that's this connection remade. So let's smooth it out. We'll come back and add a little bit more texture to the landscape since we're doing a lot of smoothing. We're sort of eliminating a lot of that detail that was here. So once we're done making this look how we want it to, we will do that. Alright, so now we have a little bit of that texture back into the landscape, and I think that really helps to tie it all together, as we don't see all the smooth edges from all of our building. I don't think there's really anything that we need to fix over this way along the mountain. I think what we have here is fine. So, well, maybe besides this. So we'll come back to our smooth tool, bring that down, and just fix that up real quick. But now that we have that, I think we should be able to let this play, and hopefully we'll begin to see some traffic start to take on this highway. Alright, so at the moment there's absolutely no one taking on our highway at the moment, and that could just be due to it being very long, and there's not really many people that would take just a route between Downey and Montgomery. Some other reasons could be that the train between Downey to Montgomery is faster, despite there being a need to switch off in Jackson. And really those are the only two reasons I could think that no one would be using this road, as I don't think there's any other connection. So maybe what we have to do is connect it up to Jackson and Scottsdale, and then maybe we'll start to see some traffic start flowing on here. I'm not too sure yet, but considering that really to get anywhere by private transportation between Downey and Montgomery is only this road, I suppose I could see how taking the train is still a better option. So pretty much as another way to help drive traffic onto this highway, I think we're going to get a intersection placed somewhere in here, and that will weave down this hill and connect into Scottsdale and Jackson. Now I don't think we're going to do like a full integration of the highway. I think really what it's going to be is this road's going to turn into a much larger road, and it'll come across and connect over to here somewhere, and then we'll end off that highway onto this road. So then it hopefully should be pretty evenly dispersed, that people going into Scottsdale will go left, and then people going into Jackson would go right, and hopefully we can split that traffic up a little bit. We'll see how it goes once we do it, but that's the hope. And then maybe later on we can have smaller highways that will help distribute people deeper into Jackson or Scottsdale. So luckily up here is already pretty flat, so if we just delete a bunch of these road segments, I'm not too sure how big this will be, but we can come into our street constructions and we can find one of our three-way intersections. I suppose this one might not be too bad. Hopefully it will fit, although it says there's a collision. In some ways it works, in some ways it doesn't. I'm not too sure what's causing that. So maybe we'll mess around with some of these and see if that's part of the issue, but we'll get something placed down here and then we'll come back once we're there. Alright, so I'm not too sure where the issue was, but we did get this connected, or placed I should say. So we'll just bring this back on each end of this, find our highways, and connect those right up. And now that we have this connection made, let's smooth it over real quick. So that should work. And now we can start to work this highway down into this area and connect to a road down here somewhere. So let's figure out what this road's going to look like first. So we're going to delete this existing one that sort of just winds around and doesn't really do anything for us. I think we'll delete it all the way to where this intersection is because it doesn't connect to anything. We'll find our large country road and pretty much drag it straight off the end here. We'll bring it pretty much straight across. I think the highway's going to have to intersect over here, which I think is fine. I think that just means we'll want to turn just a little sharper here. I think we might actually be able to tunnel under these tracks. So if we can get just a little bit lower by pressing Shift and N, we could maybe get a tunnel that doesn't look too terrible. And then over here, I think this might just end up being a bridge, but we can delete that and we'll drag that pretty much straight over. And we'll do the same thing, but this time we'll do Shift M to raise this so we get a bridge. Probably this concrete bridge. It's pretty much the cleanest looking bridge that we have. And we should be able to place that. That's not horrible. And I think I kind of like that. So that'll be those connections. Hopefully this one into Scottsdale ends up working. We'll have to see what happens, but now we can start to work this highway down, and we'll see what that looks like. Alright, and after a good bit of work, here is our highway that comes from up here and weaves down the mountain, down towards the city of Jackson and Scottsdale, and I think it looks pretty good for what it is. We had to do a good bit of redesigning in a couple of areas, but as you can see, really the only major thing is this bridge that crosses these tracks here, but overall I think this should be just fine. So we'll let this play, and hopefully we'll see some destinations start to pop up on these roads. I'm hoping that this highway is faster to go between Jackson, Scottsdale, and Montgomery, so hopefully we'll see less people taking that slower, more skinnier road, and we'll see more people starting to take this highway. Now while we wait for that to happen, we will upgrade this road. so it's faster for people coming out of Jackson. And we mentioned this before, but I think we're gonna redo this bridge so that it looks a little bit better where it is. We'll come through and we'll have to reconnect this first. But I think for some reason we can't delete that. But we should be able to now, from here, try to connect those. Alright, so we redesigned this bridge, and I still really don't know if I love how it looks. I don't know what's going on with this segment and why we can't delete it, so unfortunately it seems like we have to sort of deal with that, because otherwise we could try a tunnel, but I think we'll leave that bridge for now and move on to some other areas. Now, last episode when we made this connection over to San Jose, we made a mistake of bringing it around so that the only way to take this road is through San Jose, and that's absolutely not what we want, because all the traffic coming from Winston-Salem and Albuquerque will drive through the city, creating more traffic. So I think pretty much right where this intersection is, we'll turn this into a four-way intersection, have it bridge across over here somewhere, and then we can have it intersect with this road, probably somewhere in this area. So we'll keep this as a simple two-lane road. We'll raise it up a good bit because we do have boats coming through here, and then we'll change it to, let's see what kind of bridge we like. I think still this concrete bridge is one of the best looking bridges we have right now, so we'll do that. We do get this little weird thing with this road, but we'll just delete that and fix it later. And then pretty much we'll just drag this over, around, and connect up to this road. Now we have this connection fixed up, and I think that should work out just fine. So everyone that wants to come and sort of bypass San Jose can then take that road. And I think that really pretty much makes this connection obsolete, but we'll see how that pans out in the future. Maybe San Jose can use this bridge to expand across the river. We'll just have to see about that. So anyway, I think that's all that we're going to do in terms of building our highway network. I think it's a good start. I think this provides a nice connection across the map, even if it is sort of a little bit longer than it needs to be between Downey and Montgomery. But what this allows us to do now is we can then split off to Santa Clarita, or maybe we could do something over here and have it split out all the way over to Birmingham, or we can have a separate network that comes over to Modesto and Sacramento. I think this really, hopefully, will get used in the future. If not, we've at least built something that looks pretty nice throughout our landscape. Checking our destinations layer, we do see that it is useful to travel between Montgomery and probably Jackson and Scottsdale. However, we still have no one taking it over to Downey, but I don't really see that happening until we really improve our infrastructure on this end of the map. Because right now, really the only place that it would make sense to take it from is either Downey or Mesa, and the traffic, unfortunately, in Downey right now is really bad, so it's hard for cars to start flowing in through here and getting onto this highway, at least from Downey's side. I'm not too sure how bad it is in Mesa, although Mesa looks really good, so maybe there's just some other factors a part of that as to why no one's taking this highway yet. But once we further integrate these three cities over here to what's going on over here, we should start to see more people take this highway. So with that, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.